In between chapters, I finished up the second tower, and I did some terraforming around here. And I also added the bridge that I mentioned. Yeah, same palette. I think this time I added some mud blocks, which I don't really think I added over there. Same sort of top, where we have like bits and pieces left over. And then just lots of stairs and slabs within the walls to show broken pieces. And I added just a basic floor here just to cover up the farm that's underneath. And then a staircase up here. And so with the bridge, here I just added some broken pieces of the bridge. I probably should add some more throughout the bridge here, which I'll probably go back and do. But I did not continue the railing of the bridge, just to show that it had been affected by this building being destroyed. So I just went with, omitting some blocks, adding walls and cracked stone, and then just not finishing up the rest of the railing, and I think that comes along pretty nicely. And then also here you have sort of the entryway, and that's no longer here as it's been destroyed. So yeah, as for the bridge design, I went with a bit of an arch here, which actually took me a while to figure out, and then a gradient to it. Then I also added just some chains on the side here, just for aesthetic purposes. But yeah, and then I just terraformed the back of it because it was kind of hard to see at a distance. It kind of blended with the cave that's behind it. So I added a lot more green here just to kind of help the tower stand out. So I have to decide whether or not I'm going to leave that crack there and maybe just terraform it so that it doesn't blend too much, or if I might just cover it up entirely. Not too sure yet, but yeah, overall I like how this came out. I think it adds a nice little backdrop from the airport. And yeah, I do have to figure out where I want to add the path to get into the farm here, because as of right now I'm just leaving it open. It's not really running that much, so not worried about it right now. But yeah, so in today's chapter I want to get working on another warehouse here, and this warehouse is going to store our smelter. I want to make a big smelting array. Just wanted it to be inside one of the buildings here. So I have a design in mind, and I was playing around with the palettes in my creative world, and I think ultimately I'm going to go with this sort of brownish, orangish palette, and then also like the stripped woods here. I originally was going to do stripped wood and stones, and some light gray concrete, but I don't think it blended too well, and it kind of just stood out more so than I wanted it to. So I think ultimately we'll do this color here. And I have some glass here, light gray stained glass, because I wanted to try something different than what I normally do here. So normally it's just, I build something and the blocks that are used are shown. But adding glass, I can show an example here. Depending on what color the glass is, it darkens the color, right? So this is lighter, and then it gets darker or more dull depending on what the color is and what the glass is. But so I want to use this to kind of help blend and just soften the colors of these browns. And then for the roof, I'm going to use dark prismarine and just some copper. So yeah, let's get to it. So this is what I had envisioned. It was basically just to get these colors, so the oak, the stripped birch, the mushroom, the packed mud, to get those kind of darkened a bit or just dull or more gray. I used a light gray stained glass, and I also think that the actual glass pane, sort of like the lines that you see in between, give it a nice texture. And yeah, so I think it helps just bring those colors down in brightness and allow them to just sort of blend easier, especially from more of a distance. And I just kind of went with like a messy pattern. I didn't try and do a specific gradient or anything, just because I was looking at images of like warehouses, especially ones that date back to like the 40s. And, over time, they just, with erosion and weather and everything, is just parts of it are light, and then all of a sudden it gets like super dark right next to it. There must have been something that spilled, or just that particular spot got a lot of light from the sun, or just a lot of rain and water. So that's sort of what I'm trying to mimic here, is that there is no specific gradient like some of these have, like this one, for example, where this would sort of imitate like a shadow or something. This is just more like age, and just natural age you would see on a building. On this side, I played around with the other side of the mushroom block. So when you place a mushroom block, it's a full all around same texture, but the side that gets sort of touched with another block gets its inside exposed like this. So I totally forgot that that was a thing, because I was placing blocks and I placed another one on next to a mushroom block by mistake, and now I saw this, and it kind of does well with adding a different texture to it. So I think I'm going to leave it on this side, and if I like it, then I can add it around the rest. Yeah, and then up here, where the glass panes can't connect to these top slabs, I'm just putting a bit of a darker, more gray block there to kind of continue that sort of gray toned down color. All right, that's roof done. This is what we got. It's a nice low and wide warehouse. I want to connect a path from here. need to figure out what to do with this space here. I didn't want to put the warehouse in this space here because I felt like it would have been too cramped. And it would sort of block some of these views, like for that. Like this building here. That's why I ended up pushing it back. But I'm wondering what to do with this space here. Alright, so I do like the idea of the water tower. I think I'll put that on the list. And in the meantime, I'll get the smelter for this built. I'm not a redstone genius, so I have a schematic and a design in mind that I found in, I think it was the TMC catalog Discord. I can link the channel, and they have tons of different like farms and all sorts of systems that are built by super intelligent people. But yeah, I'll get that built in here, and we'll have to start decorating. This place is looking pretty bland, even though there are buildings here, but I do want to add, things on the outside here, like, around this place we can add maybe something that represents, maybe gasoline barrels that they could fuel the planes, or just maybe different parts, wheels and such that would sort of be replaced and worked on, because this would be the main hangar that these planes fly into and then go into here. This one could be something where planes go for maintenance, like long-term maintenance, or maybe just some sort of storage. But I'm not really good with small details. That's why I've sort of avoided it, and that's why it's sort of plain here, is because I'm not really sure how to do those things, how to tackle them. So, but it's definitely something I have in mind, and I'm hoping to implement soon so that this place can sort of start to look alive. So before I wrap this up, there is something that I do want to show. Out here I have a giant piece of ocean, and I saw the perfect spot, which is right here. Sort of like this sandy small cliff. I wanted to add a small little town here, sort of like an old Italian, cliffside town. And I started with a particular build. This is from Boy and the Heron. I think it's toward the end of the movie. There's a scene where, I forget the character's name, but they're in this small little sort of overgrown cottage that's right by the water. And it's got like this view that's basically just the building, and then clouds, and then there's like some ships in the background. But you could tell that it's like right on the water. And they've got like this, white stone, sort of maybe even like a limestone type of material. And I tried to use just a mix of the whites and grays that we have to do that. Also, the mushroom stem's a good block. I think that's probably like the closest color we have to limestone. And then I sort of mixed this with like Porco Rosso's architecture of like their docks. They have sort of just this like concrete stone type of dock that just it's not made out of wood or anything. And I wanted to add that to here, so I did that. And the whole process of this is over on my Instagram. I didn't make a video for this, just had this idea and wanted to get it done. And at the time I didn't have the environment to record. This is just something I wanted to show on the YouTube side. I've got another project simultaneously going on here where we're going to start to add little houses here in this area, and then all along the coast here. So we'll continue this same pattern all along here, and I'm not sure where we'll sort of close it off, but could probably even continue over on this side. And then sort of turn this into a seaside town, and then maybe even add some ships out here. So I've been looking at this for a while, and I think I'm changing my mind about it. I feel like it doesn't really fit in. I mean, if there was maybe like more green slabs that were available, then maybe. I don't know, I think I'm going to switch it out for some deep slate. It's going to be a little boring and sort of match with the rest of these, but I don't know. I've just been looking at it for a while and it's just not sitting right with me. So, but the roof is something I'll change now. Okay, so I think it looks better. To me, it feels like it doesn't stick out with like the rest of the builds here. Like they all kind of seem similar. For now, I'm okay with this since it's sort of on theme with the rest of the builds here. So that wraps things up for this chapter, and see you in the next one.